The girl had a terrible dream. In the dream, the devil climbed into her bed, borrowed her body, and gave birth to a demon baby. And as the girl woke up, she gradually discovered that her body was really pregnant. And a few months later, a baby is born. Guy and Rose are a sweet couple. They recently moved into a new apartment. The new living environment made them look forward to their future. One night, Rose went to the communal laundry room to do her laundry. She happened to meet Terry, the woman who lived next door. Terry was cheerful and she became friends with Rose within a few words. Rose also learns that Terry is an orphan, but her landlords, the Cassavetes, were very kind to her. She was treated like her own parents. Terry also took out the amulet that Mrs. Cassavetes had given her. It was a ball-shaped pendant containing a strange-smelling herb. According to Mrs. Cassavetes, it could ward off evil spirits. However, one calm evening, Ross and Guy were walking down to their apartment building from work. The crowd in front of them attracted their attention. The two men rushed up to check and found Terry dead. The police declared that Terry had accidentally fallen off the building. This incident made Ross feel the vagaries of fate. Just a few days earlier, the two had been chatting happily together. Terry even showed her her amulet. But who would have thought that a few days later something like this would happen? At that moment, an old couple walked not far away. They were the Cassavetes, as Terry called them. Mrs. Cassavetes was very sad to hear about Terry's death. Rose, who had learned of the old couple's kindness from Terry, came forward to comfort them. Under her comfort, Mrs. Cassavetes felt much better. The next day, to thank Rose for her kindness, Mr. and Mrs. Cassavetes invited Mr. and Mrs. Gay to their home. Gay was at first reluctant to get too close to strangers, but Rose was very sympathetic. After her repeated pleas, Guy finally agreed. The Cassavetes entertained the Gays. Good wine, good food, and cordial exchanges at the dinner table. The two strangers became acquainted, but then something happened that made Rose feel helpless. After that dinner, the Cassavetes seemed to consider the Gays as good friends. Mrs. Cassavetes would often visit Ross's home. She also gave Ross an amulet identical to Terry's. Ross was a little overwhelmed by Mrs. Cassavetes' enthusiasm. One night, Ross and Guy were enjoying a candlelit dinner at home. The doorbell suddenly rang and Ross was struck by a sense of urgency. As she expected, it was Mrs. Cassavetes who came, but she didn't come in. She brought 2 desserts. Rose took a bite and vaguely she seemed to taste a familiar flavor. She didn't like the taste and wanted to throw the dessert away, but Guy thought it was inappropriate to throw away someone's kindness. Rose had no choice but to take advantage of Guy's departure, poured the dessert into a napkin and planned to dispose of it after dinner. After dinner, Ross went to the laundry room to clean up the napkins. Suddenly, a wave of dizziness hit her. She stumbled back home. Guy sensed something was wrong with Rose. He thought his wife had had too much to drink and took her to bed, but Rose's body was out of control, but her mind was unusually active. In her mind, a strange vision was unfolding. She saw herself stripped naked on the bed, surrounded by a group of equally naked men and women. They were staring blankly at Rose with no expression on their faces. Then a hideous monster appears. The monster climbed into bed and attacked Rose. Rose could not resist, but let it do what it wanted. Gradually, she felt exhausted and eventually fell asleep. The next morning, Guy woke Rose up. Rose woke up feeling very sore. Guy explained that he had had a baby with Rose last night while she was asleep. Rose didn't think anything of it. After all, the two of them had already planned to have a baby. A few months passed by. One day, Rose felt a pang of discomfort. She went to the hospital and learned that she was pregnant with a child. Rose was so excited that she told Guy the news. The couple was expecting a new baby together. The Cassavetes also learned of Rose's pregnancy. They referred her to a well-known obstetrician and gynecologist in town. Mrs. Cassavetes also offered to take care of Rose. All in all, Rose was well taken care of by those around her. But as time went on, Rose's health became very weak. Her face was pale and her weight had dropped. One day, her friend Hess comes to visit her at home. After seeing the state of Rose, he was worried, and after hearing about Rose's recent events, he senses that something is wrong. The Cassavetes family's behavior seems overwhelmingly enthusiastic, but when you think about it, they were a little too enthusiastic. Before he left, Hess told Ross that he would look up information when he got home. That night, Ross received a phone call from Hess. He met with Ross the next day and had something important to explain, but at the appointed time, Hess did not show up. Later, Ross learned from Hess's family that Hess had fallen ill unexpectedly that morning, but before he fell ill, he left a book for Ross. It was a book about religion. At Hess's mark was an account of the resurrection of the demon Satan. What shocked Ross was that the record was exactly the same as her own dream. Not only that, the book also recorded the use of a ball-shaped necklace as a charm, and then used the plant with a special smell as a medium. The more Ross read, the more shocked he felt. The more she read the book, the more shocked she became. She was more and more sure that she was being used as a breeding vessel for demons. Rose rushed to escape, but what she didn't expect was that guy was in cahoots with the Cassavetes, and so Rose couldn't escape the clutches of evil. The day of delivery came, and all the devil's followers looked forward to it. Finally, Rose gave birth to the demon's son, and under the compulsion of the believers, she also accepted all this, willingly became the mother of the devil. This is a religious horror film released in 1968. There is not a single scary scene in the film, but it still scares many viewers with its eerie atmosphere. Thanks for watching this episode. We'll see you next time.